Hey, I'm Brendan from Wheatus, and you're about to take a look at how we make noise on stage. We're on tour right now in the Midwest, Chicago tonight, and I'm going to be showing you how we sort of tricked our studio into coming on the road with us digitally. Back home we use lots of different guitars and lots of different amplifiers and things to make whatever sound we need, but it's much easier on the road if you have just one thing to make noise. This starts here for guitar at least. This is my custom Brian Neville walnut hollow body acoustic. It's a strange guitar. It's a sort of a dual compound angle, dual thickness depth guitar, and it sits on me sort of like a mariachi guitar would, and is easier to look at when I'm playing and singing at the same time. It also does all the sounds. It does the acoustic sounds and it does the electric sounds, and it's got lots of frets. So I designed this guitar on paper over the course of several years, and then I found a guy in New Jersey who was willing to try and build me one. He was not first and foremost a luthier. He was a sculptor and a structural engineer by education, and he helped me figure out how to bring this into reality, this kind of weird like acoustic arch top that has like a metal neck from the 80s. It's basically what you would get on like it's halfway between a classical nylon string guitar neck and a mid 80s or late 80s Paul Reed Smith in its feel. But that's where the Paul Reed Smith thing ends. It's a carved walnut body, mahogany 5-piece neck with rosewood splines in it. It's a Macassar ebony fretboard. This is a piece of Sitka spruce from somewhere in Alaska. I sourced all the wood myself. The bracing system is an A-brace system that comes down from here. Two pieces of African blackwood are underneath this top, and that's what the bridge drills into. And the supports, the braces have little raised areas underneath here so that this can screw into them and be sturdy. But other than that, there's no bracing on the top, just the A-brace system, and the rest of it is just acoustic. I have a custom set of bass strings that are from Kurt Mangan. The E, the A, the D, and the G are all bass strings, 50, 40, 30, 20 wound. And then the the B and the E are 11 for the E and a B at 14. And they're just extra long because we're stretching from the back plate here up over a series of rosewood sort of under bridges that are glued to the bottom of the top, and then back through these holes to get that harp kind of vibe. That's this kind of special chord that I like. It's weird. Like I said, I was trying to figure out how to have my cake and eat it too. Very lightweight guitar that was acoustic, but also felt like a shredder on the metal side of things with lots of frets, and was ergonomically okay and wouldn't hurt my shoulder. So it's very light. It's about 7 pounds. And it's a shame Brian does not build guitars anymore. He built me a series of these. I have 3 of them. Yeah, they're my weird guitars that nobody else would want. Anyway, so we run a typical Shure wireless rig. The guitar plugs into Shure wireless. Everything is in this rig, all contained. 1/16 space rack has our wireless in-ear monitors, keyboard rig, drum samples rig that he triggers on the kit. I'll show you that in a second. Guitar laptop and bass laptop. I hate amplifiers, they break. They're too expensive and fragile. Computers are easier to get in various places, so and they're much smaller, and the airlines have a hard time breaking them, although they try. Yeah, this is the rig. It's not that complicated, but it's different. I built the rig over the years to accommodate the in-ears, the wireless guitars, the drum patching, all of the passive splits, analog splits if we need them, AES if we don't. The Behringer X32 in-ears rack, which is set and forget. We have 3 different mixes that run on that. We have 2 identical rigs. They're mirrored. The other one's sitting down there. And they're built exactly the same. And just over the years, I've learned how to do it right and rebuild it. It takes me about 3 days to finish wiring one up. And once it's done and it's all tethered properly, we feel a little bit better about putting it in a trailer and rocking it around for thousands of miles. And we've been lucky. So yeah, we're self-built, these rigs. On guitar and bass, we're running Axiom. And for like Dirtbag, I'll show you, like, we're running basically two channels. It would be a clean and a dirty, so to speak, with each has a chainer, and we're running several instances of THU by Overloud on these chainers. In this particular case, the acoustic sound for Teenage Dirtbag is 8 channels of THU with different panning assignments, level controls that I control with the MIDI control on this Morningstar MIDI controller. We just started using these. We switched over from the old school Digital Music Corp Voodoo Labs stuff. But anyway, now we're using these, and what you got here is you got, like, so I'll show you. So this is an acoustic one. You'll see the level is up when I go into the chorus. That's the verse sound. It goes right down, and that is the acoustic sound disappearing, and like some of the electric sounds coming up. These are all, that's one electric sound that happens to be on the acoustic side, right? So that goes reverse. If I go over here and show you the other side, which is the sort of like big wall of metal sound, this is a modified Dimebag Darrell branded amplifier that they have in the system. Changed it pretty heavily, but this is the series of, we haven't purchased these delay plugins yet because we like the way it sounds without them. So we're dealing with, in the THU, I'm basically using a lot of what I used on the first record. This is a Sans Amp emulator, just on full tilt, which the guy who mixed our first album referred to as radioactive. These don't need a level control because the whole entire thing comes up all at once. And I can show you, if I throw the guitar on right now, a little bit of what it sounds like. This is my incredibly complicated strap that has everything on it. My wireless in-ears and my guitar transmitter. So, when I'm on the Teenage Dirtbag patch, it is, like I said, it's basically like a sort of clean acoustic-y sound. No, keep that up, mate. We're doing, yeah. And then if I want to fade it into the distortion, I can go. But typically when we're in the Teenage Dirtbag world, it's like. Very sort of harmonically saturated, overdriven, totally disgusting sound. Also, there's a nice, really nice auto wah that this system has that I've been using for songs from our second record, like Lemonade from our second album. You can turn that up. It's all points in between. So let me get another one that's kind of fun. This is a song called Freak On, also from our second album. It's a wah, auto wah, but I control it with the. So it doesn't feed back. I have the pedal, so I'm playing, you know. And singing and so on.
You think I see you, but I do. Flipping around with your high pants on and a black leather shoe.
Like that. And then the chorus comes in. Yeah, so, you know, it's a feedback free, even though this sound would live in feedback. You know, I can keep it from feeding back with just the pedal assignments. And then for a few patches, I have a wah or a boost Let's go to one where I actually have that. But no amplifiers. We haven't toured with amplifiers since 2001. Not 2000. We haven't toured with amplifiers since 2000. So it's always been digital, and we've gone through different versions of this. We used MainStage for a while. We used a dedicated computer called a Sea Lake for a while. We've settled on Axiom because it seems to be the sort of most robust, can handle what we throw at it. A lot of processing. So here we are on the song with the wah pedal. So we got our chorus, you know, and then I have to throw on the wah. I have to turn the wah on, so I'm going. So you have like this 3 different guitarists sing different tones entirely, but I try and do them all myself with just tiny little foot moves. And sometimes I get it wrong, and it's hilarious. Yeah, so that's the guitar rig. The bass is very similar. He doesn't have quite as much control that he requires. Just a lot of EQing and a version of THU here. We do throw some reverbs on the bass sometimes. This one happens to be off. But we're talking about one of their amp models from Brunetti, and another one from their Fender version, which is a bass face. We do a little bit of mic cabinet emulation in here, but it's mostly EQ. As you can see, like each song has its own EQ. We find that the snare and the vocal stay the most stable, but the guitar and bass have to move around them. So we have all the amps that we ever use to record anything, which is a lot of different kinds, kind of stacked in here for the different songs. Different sounds are sometimes very different from one another. One example is have this sort of AC/DC inspired tone for a song called Temporary Song. So this is a sort of a typical Marshall, Randy Rhoads, Angus Young era kind of stuff, and some clean, but you can't use this for Teenage Dirtbag. It sounds really wrong. No, absolutely not. So for that we go back to, you know, the actual acoustic sound inspired mostly by like James Taylor, Fire and Rain tone, or something along those lines, Paul Simon. Teenage Dirtbag of all of them is sort of almost the most boxy. It's this big sort of wall of wannabe J Mascis guitars, you know, but controlled with like metal gating. You know, so if I wanted to, you know, and dead, and that's all me. Sound guy never gets the blame in this band because it's my fault, always. Drums. We run MainStage. Every song has its own patch where we have not only the acoustic drums on the JT Whitney kit over there, they're all mic'd up, but we also have, we use the Aquarian alternate mode trigger heads, and I'll show you those right now. First of all, the dual 14x9 kick drums, 14 inches wide by 9 inches deep. They are, we have a pair of D6, Audix D6 microphones in there, and they are triggered by the audio signal that we split into the computer. So here we have the alternate mode Ditty, which is basically a MIDI drum converter. Receives signal from these trigger heads, which are also acoustic heads. If I turn this off, you have just your regular drums, right? But if I turn this on, the computer is getting MIDI from here. So much deeper, much more 808 kind of vibe. And the kick drum has that real sort of metal attack. Depending on what song you're on, you're talking about, you know, some pretty different, very different kick drums. Some of them are sort of 70s Motowny kick drums, and some of them are 808s, and some of them are pure metal click, and some of them are stacked. So depending on the song, each song has its own kick drum, and what we like to do is turn our front of house guy into a mastering engineer instead of anything else. Try and make it easier for him to do something more refined out front for everybody. This is the actual Teenage Dirtbag snare from the record. Right out front. The side snare here is also triggering. We use a Mira Durrell 15-inch hi-hat, gold bell, Black Sea gold bell. We have a Paiste giant beat, a Bosphorus, an AX from Sabian, in Istanbul, China, and a couple of chimes and things, and then a sort of side trigger for just some songs that have this like little effect symbol that we use. It's more versatile for us to have something that sort of like can go anywhere. It's like a little chime thingy. Yeah, it's just a kind of a hybrid electric acoustic kit. It was made for us by J.T. Whitney in California. He's a genius. It's all really lightweight. It's like Russian dolls. It stacks into itself, and then you put it in a bag. You can walk down the street with all these drums on your back as they stack into each other. Obviously, the hardware is a different story, and you need a cymbal case. Everything is suspended, meaning that there's a cage. So this is one piece, and then this is another piece. The kick drums mount on these stands via J.T. Whitney's kind of patented kick drum mounting system. We never have to dig it into a rug. We never have to find a piece of concrete to stick under it and keep it in the same place. It's all the DW hardware stuff and some Yamaha stuff. DW makes the V-drum hardware, and that's what we're using for the most part on this. We tried to keep it simple, but in some cases it had to get a little complicated so that it could get the right geometry. But basically it breaks down into two sides. There's kick drum, drummer's perspective left, and kick drum perspective right. And this is one side of the kit that can be picked up by two people and walked off the stage at a festival, and so is that. It's designed for quickness. I think our sort of record breakdown or setup time is about 9 minutes. So, and that's just us, no crew, just us doing it on our own. Keyboard rig is pretty simple. You got a upper manual for Hammond organs and synthesizers and such, and you got a lower manual for electromagnetic and pianos and the rest of it. Sometimes he plays an Italian piano or harpsichord on the bottom. But it's all sort of sampled stuff, and the convenient side of the keyboard rig is that it's all the stuff we use on the records. So it's the sounds we made the albums with. So it's basically the idea is we're performing the album in front of you, like uniquely. So vocal mics, I use the Royer suspension shock mount for a Beyer M88, and at this point, it's not always been this way, but all three of us, myself and Joey and Gabrielle, are on Beyer M88s. And the drum mics are also the Beyer stuff, with the exception of the kick drums, which is D6, Audix D6. These are the Beyer, the D57C and D58C condenser series, clip-on series, as well as the TG201s on the overheads and the hat. And that's it. We just have a bunch of spares of those mics that we travel around with. They're, in my opinion, they're kind of like the sharpest, punchiest sounding drum kit mics we have found. And aside from that, everything's kind of homemade. The stands are all modified and whatever else we need to make them do the right thing. That cable snake I have built and rebuilt myself a few times. It's all labeled and everybody knows where it goes. I'm the only one who's allowed to plug in the multi-core because it would be a really expensive mistake that I want to be the one to make that mistake. But the rest of it is just everybody just jumps up here and plugs stuff in, and we all know how it goes, and we can set up pretty quickly and then have time for an interview about our stupid gear. So, yeah. So if you want to come and see us in Wheatus, play all this stuff and make noise with it, you can go to wheatus.com/shows or check our Twitter and Facebook and Instagram accounts and our TikTok account. Woohoo! And come see us and hang out, because we do it all ourselves and we'd like to do it for you.